What's up, Greg? How you doing?
Chilling. Chew up to.
I just stopped by, see what's going on.
Feeling the vibe,
Yeah,
right? I was just gonna be like, all right, we can talk about, different shit.
right. Like, what you got back there? You
I
getting
mean,
work? Who's that?
yeah.
Like a Black Pilgrim
Where, what?
behind you?
Oh, yeah, that's some voodoo painting I've been working on.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
need
you,
to
sh- you
finish
know your
that up.
shit's good when it looks good from a Zoom perspective.
That is a good test of whether or not it should be sold.
Right?
Absolutely. Oh shit, there goes
Oh,
Josh.
you the host now. Look at me. Look at me. I'm the host now.
Oh shit, man. Oh man. Plus, I know Josh gets mad anxious about this shit. So right now he's
Wait
just
till
like
he
working.
edits this.
He is working furiously trying to get back on this shit.
He's gonna be knocking at your door in
Right?
about 5 minutes.
Oh man. I'm sorry, Josh.
Sorry,
All
buddy.
right. You
You'll
you the
be back.
hostess with the mostest.
Actually, you're the hostess with the
I
most.
know, right? Shit. We gotta do the thing. If I
Uh,
knew what he was gonna say next, I would just take that shit over.
yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, he just was
Oh.
going on. Yeah, the boys, something about Amazon.
He was probably gonna say twat,
Twat, twat or twy?
twat.
Twat. All
Yeah.
right.
He does love a speaking of which.
Right. Hey.
Hey.
Are you ready?
Whoa, yeah. Coming in all kinds of fired up, just dropping into the steam tunnels on turbocharge. That's it. Bringing that elbow from the top ropes, and we are back. It is I, the Birdman, coming on into the steam tunnels and convening the triumvirate of geek. We are here. We are ready. I am a new man, quite literally, right fresh off the vasectomy. Good times. They
Getting a lot of mileage on that.
they did not prepare you. They did not prepare me for the way that my scrotum was going to look like it was in Raging Bull. I mean, I looked kind of like Bobby De Niro. Okay, you're gonna hit me, Tommy. You're gonna hit me, Tommy. Hit me as hard as you can. Harder. Okay, that's sort of like, I'm looking at myself afterwards. Never got me down, Ray.
Clipped your impersonation talent too, I guess.
Hey, we're doing my best here. What can I tell you? De Niro's never been my man. I've never been that great on Bobby De Niro. It is what it is. Most people have a Bobby De Niro. Most people have a Christopher Walken. It's just kind of one of those things. But
Most people have bad both.
yeah, I'll give you that. There's a reason I was never able to take this show on the road and actually get into stand up. But all right,
Quitter.
we got out the frozen peas and the frozen blueberries. See what I did there? Yeah, we're back up. We're back up and running, walking around. Almost feeling human again, and we are here. But I am here as always. With my two compatriots. Let's take it on over to the man who you never know which direction it's going to come from. You never know where he's going to take it. Our very own Three of Clubs, RaShaun Smith. Let's hear you sound off today.
Comrade, what it do? How did it do? I just would like to know what exactly would it look like for them to prep you to be prepared for that? Like, are you looking for more pamphlets, or were you looking to be sat down in some sort of interactive video like you're at freaking Disney World or something? Like, what exactly was the heads up that you're looking for? Like, hey, by the way, if you're looking for nuts that look like Randy Marsh can bounce off of, then go ahead and sign up. I mean, what exactly were you looking for? Look, kid, they only promised one thing. It was that your potency is going to drop down to like 0.001, which, by the way, PSA kids, doesn't mean you can't actually still do it. If your boys are kicking out some potent juice, it's 99 for a reason. 99% for a reason. Not 100, 99%.
No, that 1%.
I mean, you know,
I know people that were from the 1%.
Yeah, it's the only time the 1%'s your friend.
Yeah. Well, not the only time. Support us. We need sponsors.
No, well, my wife is actually a product of the 1%. So there you go. So that's I'm kind of grateful for it. Is the funny part, right? Where they go, I did tell the doctor I expect better work than that. I told him that story, and I'm like, just for whatever it's worth, you know.
Mrs. Birdman, when the populations come to eat the rich, I just want to point out that it wasn't us that pointed out who your lineage was, and God bless you.
All right. Well, you know, we gotta take it in there, and let's also take it over to the leading part of this triumvirate here of the panel of geek. He is the man. He is the myth. He is the legend. He fucks with the mother country by his own words. It is, in fact, Gregory DeSense. How you doing today, Star Child?
Oh, I'm excited, man. This is one of those topics that's right up my alley. So I'm gonna sound real knowledgeable in a minute.
Oh, we're gonna bring the knowledge today. Are you? You're gonna school us. You're gonna sit us down.
I hope so. You know what I mean? Like, if I can't sound smart on this subject, just I ain't even trying.
Are you gonna school us? You're gonna learn us good. Before we get into it, just a couple of shout outs. A shout out to Washington State, particularly Seattle, and surrounding areas, giving us a ton of downloads out there, man. Like 50 some odd downloads. Nice work.
Guys, RaShaun, you there?
You're on the other side of Interstate 90. That's literally where it begins and ends. And we're going to pass through Indiana. Indiana got about 45 downloads going on there. So we are happy as hell to see you there. And you just keep on doing what you're doing there, Indiana. And you just keep on going with that love there. What's up there, Star Child? Oop.
You froze for a second, and then
Indiana, you know, IU, we see out there. We love it. Thinking of some breaking away stuff there with the little 500 going on there, taping them into the bike pedals. Like that's it right there. Little shout out to Dennis Quaid and his first movie. Great movie, by the way. Breaking Away. If you've never seen it, go on out, kids. You got the Google.
Is now the time to shout out the Quaids? I think we should give them a little.
All right, we'll give them a little space there.
There's a couple of actors we could probably shout out before we get back to the Quaids.
They have back to the. I didn't know what Dennis got. I didn't know if Dennis got up to any bullshit lately, but you know, Randy, we know. Randy literally became his character from the Vacation movies. That's the amazing part. He actually apparently called Chevy Chase to try and bail him out of jail, which, just a little life hack, guys. If you want your life to be going well, firstly, don't call Chevy Chase for fucking anything because he's a notorious dickhead. And secondly, if you're calling him like your character from a movie you've been in, things are probably not going so well. I'm just going to take a stab. But as I said, really, Chevy Chase is kind of known that he wouldn't spit on you if you were on fire. Is the reputation that he holds. And, you know, I know this and I'm just some schmuck sitting in Massachusetts. So who the hell knows? We are recording this after Veterans Day. So just want to give a shout out and a thanks for all your service to all our veterans, particularly one associated with the show, RaShaun's brother, USMC. Hoorah! Actually, you know, if you want to add anything to that, RaShaun, I'll let you do that. But, you know, we are all good there. And, you know, once a Marine, always a Marine. We know that. So beloved Corps, which also just had its birthday as well.
That's right. Semper Fi. And I would say he would totally appreciate this if he ever listened. But
Yeah,
other than
well,
that,
I
but
mean,
it does not diminish the solemn holiday, and I think all three of us share. Or I don't want to speak for Greg, but I would willing to bet that all three of us share Josh's sentiment, and keep on trucking. I don't know. What do you say to this?
I mean,
I don't know.
yeah,
Thank you for your
I'm not going to
service.
be the one to just shit on the military. Yeah, like definitely.
Thank you for your service. A
Thank
typical
you for your
thing,
service.
yes,
Yeah, my brother, he did his thing. He enjoyed the shit out of it. So, let's hear it for the Navy.
all right, there you go. My dad was Navy too, and don't ever forget Marine stands for my ass rides in Navy equipment, which is always my favorite.
Yeah, don't forget that most people who say that don't say it to Marines.
Nah, I value my teeth too much. I'll give you that. But gotta give a little love to the U.S. Navy too, right out there. And my cousin served on the USS Kitty Hawk. So shout out to Jesse. So he was there. He was on the deck of a carrier. It's a mini carrier, pocket carrier, and good times. But all right. But as you know, we're going to transition right from the military into how open we are to dictatorships. I mean, it just rolls right off the tongue there. I'm sure I'm not going to get in any trouble for that, for putting those two juxtaposition. I'm sure this is just going to go over fly. Sorry, that may be bad timing. We really did mean a sincere thank you to our servicemen and women out there, all working your ass off. But we were talking, and being that we are a show that's all about pop culture and social commentary, we were recently talking about Alan Moore, who is famous for Watchmen. What else is he famous for, Greg? I'm thinking Watchmen.
V for Vendetta.
V for Vendetta, exactly. And he made an interesting point when in his musings that he was talking about that our worship of superheroes here in America. And by the way, I'm the only one of the triumvirate who's gone and seen Wakanda Forever. Thank you very much. Loved it. Definitely go out, give it the thumbs up. Totally spoiler free here, but go on out, check it out, see it. But our worship of superheroes, he feels, leaves us open to and vulnerable to the idea of an autocratic dictator, someone who would, that strong man who would kind of come in and, be that one ring to rule us all. If I can go across geek genres here. And I will splice, I will dice. I'm like the CRISPR over here of nerddoms. All right. That's kind of what we do. We just kind of take the genetic strains and put them together and see what comes out on the other end. But it really is an interesting grist for the mill. It really is just the type of meat we like on our bone here at Steam Gentlemen. We want to talk about that idea of, do you really think? Because all three of us grew up reading comic books. All three of us have certainly seen our fair share of Marvel movies, DC movies. We've been there. We were there for the shitty Marvel movies of the 90s, kids. We were there for the even shittier Marvel movies of the 80s. Okay?
I was about to say, you better talk about some TV shows from the 80s that we had to get through.
Absolutely. We all watched Batman on
Spider-Man, the TV show.
Oh, well, Spider-Man, listen, Spider-Man had a baseline that, if I'm going to borrow from John Oliver here, that baseline fucked, okay? That's what that did. That totally fucked.
Yeah, nothing screams quality show like the only thing you can lean to is a baseline from the theme song. Not even the theme song, like American Hero, where it actually had a full theme song that we all kind of lean towards. No. You got to go to a baseline. That's how bad it was, kids. A fucking baseline was all we had to hold on to.
That was a badass bass line, and
wasn't that good
that I grew up as I grew up playing bass, so I totally knew that bass line without a doubt, man. That
played saxophone, so what?
Clap and pop, so there was all that. Now, the Greatest American Hero, yes, it's hard to beat that one because that was prime yacht rock. Okay, like the only thing that was missing was Michael McDonald singing that song, and he
look
didn't.
At me now.
But believe it or not, I'm walking on air. All these things.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. Never thought I would feel so free.
Where's my goddamn lighter?
It was great.
That's it, was man.
Great. It was
totally.
Great.
Absolutely. Yacht rock in the extreme. So, but this was the superheroes we grew up with. So I'll be honest, when I hear some of the fanboys complain about the Marvel films and the DC films nowadays. It's sort of like watching my kids bitch about the stuff they get to watch or the food they get to eat or any of that. I'm like, the babysitters that we leave them with, considering our babysitter was, hey, if it isn't me, don't open the door. Like, God damn. They complain about how much I work.
The number to Christie's.
Yeah, like you have no idea, child. You have no idea. So for those of you, for the 2 members of our listening audience who are of an age that can remember these things, or can't, are young enough to not remember these things, just be grateful, enjoy your Marvel. But we wanted to dive into it. We wanted to get into the idea of, do superheroes leave us open to to a dictatorship somewhere in the future? So I'm going to turn it on over to the Star Child, the learned one here. Oh, Professor. This is, really in his wheelhouse here. He's got on his doctoral robes and the special hat. You should see him. It's really quite a sight to behold. But
thank you very much.
Star Child, let's start this little symposium off here. Talk to us about superheroes and dictatorships.
Well, I love it. I love this subject. And I don't know if you guys are going to agree with it 100%. But there's this kind of just lazy deconstruction of superhero movies going on, and I'm getting tired of it. Just focusing on how misogynistic comic book characters are, and it's like, are they really? I mean, those abs aren't for my sake. At least I don't think so. Those tight asses aren't for my sake. At least I don't think so. That they're all spoiled billionaires. Like, I don't know. Like 10 of them might be billionaires, and it's more really just so they have an excuse to build all of their superhero shit more than anything else.
But have any of them bought Twitter? That's all I'm saying. Have any of them bought?
I mean, not the good ones, right? Right? Like the majority of them grew up poor or outcasts or, aliens, and their planet just blew up. Like, I just go, and why are we focusing so much on the heroes and not, I don't know, the villains that want to wipe out half of life in the universe, or want to just destroy the earth, or just destroy the city, or just poison the entire city? I feel like we're just
get their own stand-up routine.
Right. Like, I feel like that we're just focused on the wrong side of this argument. Like, why are you trying to make the heroes into the ones that are responsible for this? I mean, first of all, let's be honest about it. Most of them work. Like, most of them have jobs, like, beings that could literally take over the world by like Thursday work for a living. Like, I would totally understand if they use their aggression towards everyday people. All right. Yes, obviously, then we're starting to trip into fascism. Or if they were starting movements that were going to say oppress all of these people, then yes, obviously we're talking about tripping into fascism. But they intentionally do not. Part of the point of Superman is that he is such a bumbling reporter when he's just being a regular person, or that Bruce Wayne is such a, selfish playboy when he's being a regular person, because they don't need to play those parts. They don't need to play those parts. They play those parts because they want to make sure that they maintain being a part of the society that they're trying to serve. Like, using that sort of aggression, I feel like people think, or I don't know if it's so much a new thing, but, maybe they feel like they shouldn't be using that aggression towards the villains either. And how many times have you seen these heroes try to save the bad guys? How many times? The last Spider-Man film was basically Spider-Man trying to save like 10 people who have tried to kill him. All right, over and over and over again. Like, look at yourselves, fellas. You're trying to murder a teenager. You're trying to murder a teenager. Like, all right, fine. I get it. They call him Spider-Man, but you look at him swinging around, you can tell he's a young kid. And you're a grown-ass man with your powers, and you're trying to murder him, and he still tries to save you. And that's a common thread throughout superhero media. Like, over and over again, you see that. I think the reason that Alan Moore, being, a Cold War baby and a post-Cold War baby, has a problem believing that you can have that much power and not be evil. Like, you just can't. It's impossible that you can have that post-nuclear bomb. We just don't believe that anything that powerful would be a good guy. And that was part of the reason why he wrote The Watchmen the way he did. Extremely cynical, but now laughable for a few reasons. Like, one, no, because if those heroes were alive, people would hate them. People would hate them. No one would trust superheroes. It would absolutely end up with them having to go hiding, because everyone would end up in court. Looking at you, Incredibles. Everyone would
I
end
was
up
just
in
gonna
court.
say, yeah,
And
Bob
then-
Barr agrees.
Right. And then post 9/11 and climate change and pandemic, it's safe to say that, yes, even an alien monster would not unite the human race. Like, nothing will ever fucking unite us. All right. Like, nothing is going to unite the human race in any action to save the world. It just never will. So you start seeing that. The Boys is a very popular one as well. You know, kind of taking out that whole idea that these people would be just serving people just because, helping just because. They would get co-opted by a corporation. That, all right, yeah, there's a lot of possibility behind that. Like, there's a very good possibility that these guys would end up working for the richest people in the world and would probably give those. But you know what? That story hasn't entirely been written yet, so we're just going to let that slide for now. But the idea that you would slip into fascism, now, was Alan Moore saying that the fans would slip into fascism?
I don't know if it was specific. I mean, I think he was definitely addressing the fans.
Yeah,
but
he was addressing the fans and that kind of love they have for this kind of epic godlike figure, you know, and putting all of this worship on this epic godlike figure. And to that, I would say, if this comic book was about loving Lex Luthor, then yes, I would totally get that. Or, you know, now there's kind of a lean into making all villains more like anti-heroes, you know, making all of them just flawed individuals that just have their kick the cat moment or kick the puppy moment, whatever, you know, small helpless animal you want to kick. You know, that's kind of the thing going forward now. And to that, I would say, well, that would be up to the fans. You know, but you didn't need comic books for that to happen. It happened way before comic books. It happened during comic books. It happened while Captain America was punching Hitler. It literally happened, you know, when Captain America was punching, I think he punched out Hirohito, Mussolini, and Hitler.
Oh, yeah. Trinity there.
Yeah, you know, like, there's Captain America. He can punch the shit out of as many people as he wants. So there, okay, yes, I could see you, you know, and obviously it was comic books were a marketing tool for the war and lots of other things. But it's also important to remember that in that period, comic books were more about selling toothpaste and getting kids to drink more milk. You know, it wasn't necessarily really trying to, you know, build a movement, you know, like it was, you know, an arm of it was propaganda. Story took a backseat in this period, you know, right? You know, like that kind of character development that we really attach to superheroes now, that was not the plan back then. That's not the plan back then.
A lot of credit to that time.
And well, I mean, that's my next point, because you take it to what's happening now, it kind of mirrors the golden age of comics for me, you know, because right now you're seeing, you know, you had the first wave of MCU films and, you know, DC films, and it was great. So now it's like, all right, after you've told the meteor stories, now you're just going to have, you know, teenage versions and female versions and sidekicks and pets and all sorts of talking animals and fourth wall breaking. And it turns into a very cartoonish escapade. So when it turns into that, then definitely, how does it turn into fascism? You know, if it was, you know, just about the dark and brooding fierceness of the 90s comics, say, for example, then All right, I can kind of see what you mean. Lots of pouches, lots of spikes, but whatever. All right, yeah, we can fly with that. But when it's golden age comics, no, not so much. They're chasing leprechauns around. Like they're actually breaking reality and attacking the writer and artist of the comic book. Like when it comes to that, no, like the superhero is a little more than a prop than anything else. Like this thing is not going to convince any teenage boy to lean towards fascism, and it hasn't. Comic books, I think, lastly but not leastly, if comic books were going to be that kind of catalyst for fascism, wouldn't it be by now? I mean, we're going 80 years into Captain America, right? And if anything, most of them have co-opted the logo of the Punisher, and now Marvel had to like change it. So, as soon as comic books, it even looks like it's going to lean that way, they have absolutely no problem just saying, okay, we got to drop that. Hate groups love it. We're going to move over to this thing. And then, there's the point that comic books also have a history of leaning into liberal policies. They are. They were the first to tackle the drug war. They were one of the first to tackle AIDS, homosexuality. Absolutely. Like they're very patriotic, generally speaking, but they've also come into a lot of left-leaning movements and have made statements on them. And you can't really, I mean, not always the best results. Okay. Like I'm not telling people to pick up any of these comics because some of them were absolutely fucking awful, but others have actually given us, like they've given us some pretty iconic characters. So I think that's absolutely the most important. And I think they were wanting to be even more progressive for the time. Stan Lee made it clear. Let's not forget, Superman was created by two Jewish creators, Magneto and Malcolm, and not Malcolm X. But Magneto and Professor X were supposed to be a parallel between Dr. King and Malcolm X. Like these guys were touching on most of the time, most of their history, very left-leaning ideals. So unless there's I know fascism is also a word people like to just throw around, but Nazism, fascism, nah, no. If it doesn't fit, I'm gonna quit.
All right. I love that Greg has thrown out the statement there. I am loving that. Greg, I'm going to need you to get all the way off Captain Planet's back because I just heard you do
Captain
that
America?
right there. That Captain Planet, because he was talking about left-leaning causes and things in the 90s. And, he just absolutely just said they were terrible. Counts. And Captain Planet, come on, man. All the, if we...
Was that a cartoon first and then a comic?
Maybe so, but all I'm saying is if we had listened to Captain Planet a little fucking more, maybe we'd be doing a little bit better. And
maybe we would have taken pollution down to zero by now.
That's all I'm saying is I just wore shorts the other day, for like the 6th consecutive day here in Massachusetts in November. So, and I wasn't even doing it being a typical mass bro of like doing it with the snow out there just to prove to you what a masshole I am. It was actually called for.
Yeah, it was 70 degrees.
It was legit called for. I'm like, okay, I need to put on my shorts right now.
Yeah.
All right. Greg has put out the point there.
I don't know. I mean, you got me in a whole lot of directions. One, I even remember at the age of 12 watching Captain Planet and thinking, if it's going to come down to this cartoon on saving us for environmental situations, we're fucked. We are so fucked. Like,
have you noticed where we are?
So far beyond. Well, I'm saying even in 1992, I was like, all right, this isn't going to necessarily get it. I think we're kind of genuflecting and changing some of the history of comics in a way I'm not going to say fit the narrative, but I think we're losing sight of actually what comics were when they started, how they even moved into advertising dollars. Because let's not forget, first of all, they were just nothing more than serials when they started. So the biggest one was Action Comics, and it wasn't exactly an advertising gulch. Matter of fact, it was the exact opposite. They couldn't pay someone to advertise on it. So it was only towards, I would say, probably 12 years before the giant push towards mobilization in World War II that advertising started to lean in their direction. But actually, it was the war bonds that actually gave advertisers a reason to
War
be
bonds
on
too,
those
yeah.
comics. Well, I'm just saying, like, I get advertising being a part of it, but that didn't really come until advertisers saw a reason to, because before that, it was basically a throwaway serial like it was for the inception up until when it started in the late 1919s, 1918. Like, I know Action Comics came in 1920s, but it was a throwaway. It wasn't even thought to be considered anything but just another serial that people produce, no different than the Westerns serials of the years that preceded. If anything, these were just an evolution of the Western serials that became popular in the late 1900s.
And American Penny Dreadfuls, right? You know, we had it's certainly
That's
a
basically what
long-standing
they
tradition.
were. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly a long-standing tradition, but you know, it's kind of interesting, right? Those things did have an effect on history, right?
And then I would also just like to point out, I think it was always the point that Superman he didn't understand what humans actually were or how they operated. So his clumsiness had a lot more to do with him thinking or acting to fit in. He was constantly trying to fit in, and he didn't know how because he didn't have the natural background. And you can make the same sort of calculation and conclusion for Batman in the sense of Bruce Wayne did not understand how 99% of the world actually lived. He had no clue. So a lot of what he does is easily him just acting to think that's what he's supposed to do instead of actually understanding what he really needs or wants to do. That's why I think a lot of philosophers have even come out in the last 20 years to point out that the alter ego is in fact not the alter ego. It's actually what we're really looking at is their hero personality tends to actually really be the alter ego.
Oh, I feel like we really missed our time, and it's too bad that David Carradine died by autoerotic asphyxiation. And you know, because like I'm waiting for his speech here from Kill Bill, like absolutely talking about how how Clark Kent, you know, how he wakes up every day as Superman, and Clark Kent is who he is. But all right. I'm liking this. I really like Greg. I really like you taking the stand where you did right now. So I'm gonna step up for my. Oh wait, 1 sec. I got
one last thing, and this
in.
actually just proves what kind of stellar individual Greg is to make friends with the rest of us and bring us along to his coolness. But unfortunately, a lot more comic readers, especially in our age group, a little bit ahead and a little bit behind, did actually read and still read comics for the exact wrong reasons when it comes to anatomy of the female body. So you say those things weren't drawn for you, and I actually agree. And I know you, so I believe you. But I can guarantee you there's a whole group that starts with an I and ends with an S, because it's always plural, that would point out that no, that's kind of the reason why they're there. And we can dispute that. But then if you can Google this, there have been women physicians who have looked at comics and point out how it's anatomically impossible for some of the women to actually be in the positions that they're in, but it only fits a certain sort of reason to be in those spots the way they draw women, and it's only for heterosexual, or if you're into women, whatever the reason. But if your sexual prowess is moving you towards that, and let's be honest, up until recently, they're really just talking to heterosexual men. They're really just being like, yeah, these women are here so you can basically kind of get your rocks off while you're reading a serial story. And also the side stories that we're seeing in the MCU, yeah, they're kind of out there, but frankly, that just means a lot of us haven't been reading comics, because it only takes one YouTube to look up one of these characters and understand there's literally libraries of comics on a lot of these side characters. So if anything, MCU is being somewhat smart, but understanding that they don't necessarily have to stick to one timeline, which is what a lot of us guess when they're coming out of phase 2 and phase 3, that they're just moving towards Secret Wars, which got confirmed for phase 5 anyway. So we knew it was coming based off of the shit we're looking at, but still, they knew to milk it.
All right. Well, there's no doubt that the MCU is here to milk it. And all right, Greg, I really like the position you took today. I think you give me a perfect thing to bounce off. I get to play a little bit of Dan Aykroyd to your Jane Curtin and start off by saying, Jane, you ignorant slut, as we work on from there. You know, it's interesting hearing you talk, because I liked a lot of the points you made, and I think you do make some legitimate points. I was even talking with someone today about how Killmonger and Magneto are the most interesting villains because they are so three-dimensional. Like they make
Mhm.
points that you can totally get behind, like you can kind of understand, right? And with that though, I still want to say I can see a little bit about what Alan Moore is talking about. It is interesting. You got me thinking about it though. Even took me off track here. So I'm going to go a little three of clubs here and talk a little bit different than I initially intended to. Yeah, I'm going to step on up. I'm going to own my three of clubs mantle today. I'm going to take my own heart-shaped herb and, assume the mantle of the three of clubs for just a moment here. But when you talk about like how it was and, how it is in the comics and how we receive it, I have heard Elon Musk been compared to a modern day Tony Stark. I have heard this comparison made out there. And I have to tell you, when it comes to the worship and the fanboys, now, up until recently, I actually wasn't a total critic of Elon Musk. I thought he had some good ideas. I would buy a Tesla if the disposable income was there. I like his product. I like the car. I like, the idea of, driving something that's emission free. I feel kind of bad driving back and forth to work and continuing to fuck up my kid's future. It's really not my favorite part of my day. It's, yet I'm doing it to put food on in their mouths, right? It's the total conundrum of modern life. But it was, he was sort of held up to this ideal, so much so that just in casual conversations online with a fan group of another podcast that I'm a big fan of that has given us a shout out here, I nearly posed that perhaps Elon Musk wasn't actual genius level, that he did in fact inherit money from an emerald mine, and that he also got government funding, right? Just to help his businesses. Not even saying these things are bad. I just pointed out that you're starting out from an advantageous position, which is sort of part of the mystique, right? He had the money. He's put it in. He did not invent Tesla. He invested in Tesla. Good for you. Good job. Just pointing out, because this was over a quote that someone had attributed to him. I don't even know. It's the internet. Quotes get attributed, right? But if this being like the Tony Stark, the responses I got to this, was just, I was excoriated, right? And all I said was, in his quote, it was sort of this quote that was being attributed to him. It was sort of the self-made man. I'm putting big money quotes there. And all I was pointing out was maybe that's not what he is. That's all. Just that maybe nothing wrong with that. Maybe nothing wrong with inheriting wealth and investing it well and doing well and making some good decisions with it. Maybe buying Twitter for $44 billion and lighting it on fire. That's what I started to cross that. And it was, when he decided also he, to his native Ukraine, he donated the Starlink and then said, well, maybe I'm going to have to charge you. I'm like, maybe in the middle of a war, you're taking, now again, are you really being Tony Stark, right? Because just don't feel, at least how we wrote Tony Stark, that he would be then trying to make a buck off his native country while it's being invaded by another country. And who knows, at least the beginning in Iron Man 1 MCU. Okay. Yeah, that would be that Tony Stark, but he learned his lesson. That's the idea. So it leaves me open to that question, right? Because I saw that kind of hero worship. And like I said, when I even mildly criticized the guys, I got excoriated. I mean, it was just a hell of a conversation back and forth. And someone said, well, you're just, I mentioned that he got government things. They said, well, you're just focusing on the money. I said, I'm sorry. I thought we were having a conversation about capitalism.
What else are we talking about?
Right?
Yeah.
What the hell? That was when it reached true comical levels for me. But I saw the worship, right? I saw the kind of like not even being able to parse out the good from the bad. And as I said, at least at that point, I really wasn't ragging on the guy that hard. I just was pointing out, hey, he started out on third base. It's a pretty good place to start. I've seen people fuck it up a hell of a lot worse than him. Okay. But it definitely a lot.
How is it worse if you started on third base?
Wait, I'm just saying I've seen people, manage to work their way back to first, okay? Manage to work their way or just run to the dugout from there. That's all I'm saying. It's possible, right? Just because you're born there doesn't mean you're going to get any better. It doesn't mean you're going to get anywhere better. But it does bring me back to some of the archetypes that we work from. Now, my favorite for a long time in the Marvel universe, one of my favorites is, of course, Captain America, right? He holds up that ideal. You have that mantle of the shield, that idea of like, hey, he's there punching not you said it yourself, Greg. He's punching out Mussolini, he's punching out Hirohito, he's punching out Hitler, for God's sakes. I mean, he punches Hitler. Come on, man.
Punches Hitler.
Like, we're into this. But
knocks
in the modern age,
right off.
Now, granted, this is long after I stopped. It's been a while since I've read comics because, well, disposable income and all that fun stuff has to go to other things. And it's been a long time since I really read the comics, but it wasn't that surprising to me when they made him a Hydra agent, right? It's that sort of things, that idea of things going full circle, right? When you take that patriotism so far, when you take this ideal all the way wrapping around, can you not start to brush up against that? Can you not start to brush up against the idea of shut up and don't talk to me? I don't want to hear your criticism, right? Same kind of thing I'm pointing out with Musk. Superman, we go on there. Truth, justice, the American way, right? We were, it starts in the 30s, definitely goes right through the 40s, easily, translates that he's beating up Nazis without a doubt and picking up Nazi tanks and throwing them. God bless you, Superman, and all that. But now, you mentioned it, so I'm circling back around to it. The Boys. I haven't read those comics either, because that was long after my time in reading comics. But I'm a huge fan of the series of Amazon. I have to say, I think that's been near perfect, even to the point where they tease themselves, even to the point where they are pointing out that they work for Amazon. Right? In that fact, they work for a giant corporation that sells you everything, and that has infiltrated absolutely every part of your existence. And they're all about Instagram followers. As we're sitting here, by the way, follow us on the socials. Do You Even Steam,
could
bro?
Be worse, man. Could be Wayland Katani.
Exactly, right? Follow us at Do You Even Steam, bro, on Instagram. There they are. They want to be these Instagram, but they want this Instagram follower, they want this love, they want this adoration. And that brings us, of course, to that opposite side coin of Homelander. You can't just talk about this subject without talking about Homelander, which has been so well done. I mean, what a performance, what a job they've done on showing us really the kind of frightening part. We talked about this in another episode when I said, when I talked about a universe I don't want to live in, like some kind of fantasy, I don't want superheroes, right? Because it shows you the idea that if Superman, for whatever reason, stopped giving a fuck, it was touched on. It's touched on by the movie the horror movie Brightburn, but it's all that same concept that if you get some being that is so much more powerful than we are. Hell, it's even touched on in the abomination that was Batman versus Superman that's been going around for a long time, and that old argument. But the truth is, that's just us giving ourselves our salve of this idea of like, oh, we could figure this out. We could Batman this bitch and make it work. No, you're dead. Okay.
Quick, what's his mom's name?
Yeah, there's just absolutely. No, Elizabeth Banks. There's absolutely no way you're getting out of this, right? So maybe you better worship him, right? In the case of Homelander, they gave it outright that he is like some kind of like crazy megalomaniac who just has a ridiculous was mommy issues in the Supreme, as well as just trying to figure his way out in life and just needs constant adoration and love. So you better damn well give it to him, or he's gonna tear shit down, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. All right, we're getting into season 4 at some point, so they'll try and find a way, but good luck with that, right? There's nothing there. Even in the outliers, they've changed. I know they've made Nick Fury black, and that's totally cool. But if you look at the character of Nick Fury, think about it. He had the super serum. He was in World War II. And what does he do? He starts an intelligence agency that makes the NSA look like it's just keeping to itself and minding its own business. Okay. Like, Shield knows fucking everything. Shield is trying to keep an eye on that. Shield is trying to be that line of defense in case, well, the Hulk or any of these guys just go totally rogue and go crazy. Good luck with that, Nick. I hear you. I appreciate the fine service that you're doing and the work that you're doing, but it is just kind of one of those things. It's not until you don't. Exactly, right? Until it comes too far back, until he's reading your email. So I'll leave it with that. But all I'm saying is I see the point he's making. I do see what's going on there. And I had some real world examples of it, of just the ire and what I saw of people in our own Bruce Wayne, our own Tony Stark here on Earth in the terrestrial realm, even though I'll still buy one of his cars one day. Who knows? Actually, I kind of want one of these electric Mustangs. I'm not going to lie, but there you go. But I'll leave you with that thought. That and I started the show off with my bruised balls. So I figured that's a much nicer place to go with it.
Well done.
Yes.
Well then, I think I agree. Like you have to think about that, but we can't really leave it with, because again, you have the real world person of Elon Musk, and let's be honest, he wasn't that popular until he came out as a batshit right winger, and then when he came out as a batshit right winger, that's when he really got this following, and that's the kind of people that really follow him. And these same people are saying that Donald Trump doesn't actually shit or whatever. Like, he rides a velociraptor with an M16, like whatever, you know what I mean? Like he's anointed by God, so yeah, I can't really put that on comics entirely either. And to say that he's like, Tony Stark.
I've heard that comparison made.
No.
Yeah. He's out there trying to, save the world.
But
and all that stuff.
Again, it's only because he
save the world part.
I mean, when he was just, making cool cars, I mean, he didn't have this kind of worship from these people. It's only since he came out as a batshit right winger.
I mean, don't forget PayPal. Don't forget PayPal. He started that.
To be fair to the Tony Stark comparison that Josh brought up, I'm not going to say it's the origin, but I've seen that well before 2022. So I would argue that it wasn't his new crowd that has made him popular. He had the base of a different crowd that he was able to springboard off of. And he got the Tony Stark comparison before 2022 and some of the things that came about, let's say even before 2021, because he was just a billionaire out there spending money on cool shit. That's how he got the sort of comparison.
Yeah, like, maybe.
He didn't create Tesla, which we all should know, and some people seem to continue to forget. He didn't actually even make it better. Matter of fact, there have been multiple reports that no matter what kind of rag you like to read, that pointed out that actually he kind of screwed things up. He just lucked out on a few things that pushed things forward. But the other things that he's working on kind of put him on that Tony Stark level in a basic, real crass comparison, like Josh brought up Starlink. That's kind of a Tony Stark move. The guy was working on actual humanoid robots to put in your house and family, like this is freaking iRobot or something. That's a Tony Stark move. The guy's trying to set up a Mars colony. Tony Stark move. I mean, that's why he got the comparison, not the coolness. Not people don't need to lose sight of that, or any other cool attribute that went to Tony Stark or Iron Man. It was just really like, all right, well, at least we have a billionaire spending money on kind of cool shit. And then, 2021, 2022 happened. So what the fuck?
And here
literally our subject.
And I did have to say that, at least, again, I'm playing foil today to you, Greg, but at least, again, in the earlier parts, when Musk is investing in Tesla, he had a big left-wing following at that point too, just to say that, because it was an electric car. We're trying to, it's a group that definitely identifies with trying to reduce emissions and all that. South Park put it greatly with driving a hybrid and smug. Remember that? Episode where the giant cloud of smug that combined with George Clooney's Oscar speech and nearly wiped us all out. So, I mean, there was, that side of it too.
Admittedly, haven't followed Elon Musk for a decent amount of time. I would point out, weirdly enough, it's not necessarily. I think the biggest mistake that happens for individuals like him is that we group large groups of people in their base when it really wasn't that. It wasn't the left wing, and it's not necessarily the right wing. There are small sections that kind of banded together to make it look big. So before 2020, I would say it's more the environmentalists and the Bernie bros that really support him. And the funny part is the Venn diagram between Elon Musk and someone like a Joe Rogan would be before 2020 was the Bernie bros and a few outliers. Now it's been moved, but I would argue the only reason why a lot of us even know about Elon or someone like that is because the environmentalists got together with the 99%, which is a weird background support base for Elon, but they were there because the 99%ers were basically the major part of the Bernie bros. And you just keep going, that collection. It wasn't like the Pelosi's. They didn't give a shit about that guy. Matter of fact, they fucking hate him. And so like it's not left wing, so to speak, and frankly I would argue it's not even right now quote unquote the right wing, but it's definitely a group of people coming together constantly making the support right now. Obviously it's more the Joe Rogan crowd than anything else.
Well, with that and a shout out to Joe Rogan, I want to hand it over to you there, Three Clubs. I want to get your take.
You gotta make
on today's subject, man. I want to see where you're at and what's going on here.
You got a vein popping out of your head right now.
I do, but I don't want to get
balls.
Yeah, no, I wish it was, but it's okay.
You're talking hella shit, man. You brought that to yourself.
No, I get you. No, I get you. I kind of wish it was my balls right now, but that's okay. You just keep on. You just keep on going on right now, and you tell us where you're at on our subject on do superheroes leave us open to dictatorship? So let me give you that 10 minutes of your fame here. Let's step you on up to the plate there and hear how we sound. Hear how you're feeling today about our subject matter about do superheroes leave us open to fascist dictatorships?
All right, step up, children, because I'm about to spin you a yard because, like normal, I didn't come prepared for class, but we're going to try and land this bitch anyway. I think you guys are kind of used to this by now, so here we go. I find this whole conversation hilarious. I find it hilarious in the sense of who humans tend to be and what we've been for the last, 10,000 years. So the story I'm going to sit you with, and it's not necessarily a specific story, like, when RaShaun did something really weird and stupid, and he tries to connect it 11 minutes later to the subject that we're talking about that barely touches it. But I think I'm going to do a better job this time. Already off to a bad start, but whatever. Here we go. So I'm sitting in church, and I can overhear some people talking about, like, laughing about
Did
Santa.
not see that coming.
Right? All right. I'm a little kid, it's back in the early teens. My early teens or whatever. But I'm sitting there thinking, like, as I hear little kids kind of talking about Santa, and I remember the pivotal, even in church, and I'm even thinking further back into my regresses, my life history, my experiences. I remember pivotal moment on the playground during recess. Kids, back in the day we had recess. It's this block of time in the middle of school where they let you go outside, and back in the 80s they let you go outside and do whatever the fuck you want for like a half hour, and then the only rule is you had to come back in one piece. The shit we tried to pull off in that half hour, pretty sure that's a federal case if anyone can actually find footage on it.
I'm not even gonna agree with you. That's the kind of shit that we did.
See, that's you don't even want to put your name on.
Not even going to acknowledge that existed.
We found out a lot during recess, but anyway. And I just remember, that pivotal moment. And I think a lot of us have that if you're raised in a Judeo-Christian house, or frankly, any house that is connected to American westernized capitalism, i.e. Santa Claus. We talked about how this mythical lore that a lot of people make you think in the United States has been around for the last 400, 500 years of the country's existence. But really, the Santa Claus that we all know and kind of work with, kind of like Biker Jesus, is a modern creation of modern times. It's not necessarily anything built in anything. So, I'm sitting there and I'm listening. Like, at the time, I was still kind of holding on to the idea of Santa because I like the nice things. It always felt nice. I said in the podcast a couple of years ago, every Christmas, I'm thinking it's 1988 in my head because that was, to me, my most perfect Christmas. Santa Claus was a big part of that. I was a poor ass kid, and somehow my parents figured out how to have a tree with nothing but gifts underneath it. So to me, it's kind of like, yeah, Santa had something to do with it. I'm down with that. Now, did I think Santa somehow mythically moved his ass across the entire globe in one night and was able to not only do that, but to figure out how to do the freight? I mean, logistics people, and then get into houses left and right, and no one freaking out when they saw him. Like, no, even if you're expecting Santa, it's still gonna throw you off if you're fucking walking down into your hallway and it's 3 a.m. and some dude, especially a dude that ain't sharing your race, is just sitting there, just looking at you like, where the cookies at? Like, you're not gonna fucking be like, oh, Santa. You're gonna be like, what the fuck? I wish I actually believed in house gun ownership right at that moment. That's what you're gonna be thinking. And you're probably gonna be thinking, how good am I with my knives? You're not good at all. I'm just gonna tell you right now, it's a PSA. So anyway, the reason why I was thinking about that in church, back to where this whole thing started, because I'm sitting there thinking like, well, yeah, it's fake. We all should know it's fake, at least by the time you're like 12 or 13 or whatever. But then I'm also sitting in church. I'm like, but here's where things get weird. And I'm going to move past that and go to a conversation my dad and I used to always have and used to piss him off because the man, even though he went through a lot of different sects of Christianity, was a Christian man. He believed in it to his core. And I would point out to him, like, cool, Dad, but would we be believing in that if we were born in a different country? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, we believe in that because we're born here. Like, this was already established religion by the time we were born here, especially if you're Black. A lot of people don't understand this, but 100, 150, 200 years ago, you almost had to be Christian. Now, the funny part is a lot of it was for self-survival. It wasn't necessarily for religion. It was for community. It was for sharing messages that couldn't be outright. It was for a lot of different things. Matter of fact, for about 150 years, even around slavery and post-slavery, most of the education for anyone who wasn't white was coming from the church. Why? Because that was the only place that could safely do it. So I got why my dad felt that way. I got why my grandparents felt that way. But still, I would point out to him, like, I don't know if we would be thinking the exact same thing that we're thinking now in our religious belief if we were born in like Kuwait. Now, I'm not saying there's obviously not Christians there. There are plenty of Christians there. So chances are it could be that. But point being is a lot of what you believe, a lot of what you think, a lot of what you hold true has a lot more to do with where you were born than anything else. And we want to genuflect these ideas, these beliefs, these feelings into some sort of sanctimonious position that we can hold on to other people and control them. And when we think about it, that's nothing but what religion is. Now, I'm not saying what it started out to be. I'm not trying to knock down any religion. I'm just pointing out that's really what religion is, whether you feel that way or not. I'm not saying there can't be good that comes from religion. Sure, there's plenty of good things. But at the end of it, what you're really trying to say is you need to believe in the thing that I can't prove is real. And if you don't, you have consequences. Why am I bringing that up? Because how is that any different than believing in some superhuman from a different planet? How is that different than believing that some billionaires out there here to protect us? Because the whole thing is based off of the idea that that thing is here for me. It is here for me. It is here to protect my ideals. It is here to protect my way of life. It is here because what they think is what I think, and what I think is good. When you actually listen to a lot of Christians, I'm just going to pick on them because that's the religion I grew up in. But if you actually listen to a lot of prayers, it's hilarious. You know why? Because it's almost never asking this deity that we believe to be so powerful and control the cosmos and the universe. We're never actually politely asking. We're straight up saying, God, grant me this. God, give me this. God, do that. So all of it is literally not for any sort of piety, not for any good reason, not for any blah, blah, blah. It's literally just God, give me what I want. How is that different than superheroes? That is literally the same thing. We brought up Superman multiple times. Josh brought up Homelander, how he's a metaphor for Superman gone bad. Greg has brought up in multiple different ways, way more poignant and eloquent than what I'm doing right now, of how Superman can come across. I'm just going to point out that he works for us in a sense because what his point of view is our point of view. Homelander is just literally what happens when Superman changes his point of view. It was never a matter. Superheroes, the mistake we make and continue to make is we continue to think of it as if we're going to have a problem with any sort of binary thought process, it's good and evil. It's almost never about that. It's always about a point of view. we agree with what Superman wants because he agrees with what we want. Soon as he changes his mind, it's no longer his right to change his mind. It's now he's the monster because he doesn't agree with what we think. That is so much rooted in how we start with religion that it doesn't even give us any hope to move away from the understanding of a superhero. So then how does this lead to fascism? Well, again, you're putting all your faith and hope and desires in a higher power that you believe is only there to protect and to engineer your destiny, to do what you want. You will do anything possible to keep that going. If it's good and you're in a good spot, you have things like what we would like to argue is the best choice of the whole situation, democracy. Everyone has a little bit of a say. Everyone has a little bit of power. Everyone can actually control the giant Superman. In the United States, that giant Superman is our military power. So it's not so much that one vote is going to make that bomb go in a different direction, but if we're voting for multiple people and those people agree with what we want, maybe those bombs don't land in the area that we didn't want to. Maybe they don't land at all. Or in some cases, maybe a shit ton more get landed. Why? Because it's what we want. So it's not that hard to believe that that can slowly manifest into just believing in that one person who believes exactly what we want or says that they believe exactly what they want or what we want is going to do anything that we want them to do, no matter what. That is exactly how you get to fascism. So we get to superheroes to fascism by religion. It starts with religion and this belief of this higher power that is here to just do what you want. And then it gets manifested sometimes in illustration, sometimes in written form, sometimes in movies, sometimes in auditory, and the idea of this being that shows up to do exactly just that. No different than basically how we think about God, Jesus, Allah, whoever the hell you want to call out. And I just said hell in a lot of the same sense, so I just probably put myself on a lot of different targets, but I'm just going to go ahead and keep it going because if Vin Diesel ain't got me yet, I'm here forever. But
freewheeling
is it's not that hard of a leap to then go from fascism, from superhero into fascism.
Wow. I got to tell you, I'm impressed. First off, I just want to say that this is the episode that will probably make a lot of fans or break us because we've pissed off everybody from the left to the right, to the religious, to the atheists. We got it all. I mean, we're just pissing everybody off today. So good job, actually.
Good job, team.
To me, that's always a sign of success. I got to tell you, if everybody hates you at least a little bit, I think we're doing our work. And I think you bring up a very interesting point, right? You know, are we, do we not bring these superheroes in this idea of a agnostic, of a agnostic or atheist Jesus, right? It's sort of endowing with the same powers. I remember once I heard Greg say that, God was kind of like Santa Claus in that way, right? You sit on your lap, you tell him what you want, and hopefully you get the cookie right after you die. So I always, carry, it was such a powerful statement. It carries it with me still, right? So, that's definitely how we view God. So yeah, we want to view that. We want to view our God, our superhero, as protecting us, as taking care of us. And,
right.
If they're never not on our side, well, fuck them, right? That's how that's going to be.
Right. It's never a matter of fairness, which I think is where it always falls down. And when we can recognize it, I think that's our best tool to get away from fascism. On a personal note, in my family growing up, it was widely believed that even after my brother joined the military, that I was going to follow suit. There's a lot of things in my childhood that I don't have time to talk about that in conversations with my family, they were almost certain that I was going to join any branch of the military. And frankly, they were mostly right. It was a lot of what I thought about. The reason why I didn't pull the trigger on that is because after 9/11, I couldn't make myself believe that my feeling of what I felt was justice in the world could constitute the horror that could possibly happen to some random civilian in the country that I'm going into that frankly had nothing to do with the reason why we're starting a war. That is actually the reason why I didn't join the military. It's easy said than done, but that is literally what also started to make me think of these things of like, okay, if I'm thinking that way, how many other people have been on the other side of the military arm of my country that have provided things that I've benefited from, even as, a lot of things that we can get into social justice wise, I still benefit from being part of this country. However, how much of that can I actually say is good if I'm facing a person whose whole village got bombed out because they possibly could have had a target sort of near what another target, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's not what good is. That is just, unfortunately, life in a juxtaposition of where we want to put good, faith, or attribute those things. No different in a superhero.
Well, I was going to say, going back to your other point, that there's a lot of people. I mean, if we're going to, even forget about our guy, God, looking at you, God, if we're going to forget about God for a minute, it goes, what's that?
Say, que paso, Jesus.
Right. And, it goes even before that, because what comic books represent are the new gods, are the new myths, looking to the skies, finding hope. And ultimately, the most important thing, just, exceeding our limitations, getting past just being puny humans that just die, being able to fly, being impervious to bullets, living longer, reading people's minds. Like, these are things that we used to give to the gods of Olympus, like these were the things that, if you had a pantheon, this was like the basic group of powers that you gave to your pantheon. So there's a lot of people that definitely believe that's what also comic books and fiction in general is the most important thing about it and what it gives to people, which I'm not going to deny. I'm not going to deny that it absolutely does. But again, saying that, you can take, whatever, corn-fed hero in tights and turn that into the next Mussolini. I just don't know. I just don't say it. The worship, the ridiculous comparisons, that's going to happen no matter what, like there's no guy who doesn't want to say that, his dick makes him Elastic Man. No. But is it? No. It's
if
really
Superman turns around and
that
makes you
that is an entirely normal penis. And you're just gonna have to deal with that.
Are you using X-ray vision? Switch.
All right.
No, it looks better.
Switch.
But I just want to point out something that's not
entirely normal penis.
I want to point out something that is not a normal penis and will not lead you to fascism nor bomb your village if you're a civilian. And that's going to Apple iTunes and iTunes and rating and reviewing the Steam Gentlemen, so we can talk about this shit more and get paid for it. Yes, please, if you have a moment, go on over, rate and review us. Make sure to, help us get up there, help us climb those charts and get us out there so we can spread that nefarious Steam agenda, that will not influence fascism. I think we can safely say that.
I don't
All
know,
right,
man.
maybe it does have Apple involved in it. Okay, all right,
we could be the fourth horseman. I mean, maybe that's the reason why we haven't been able to really kick off, is the future selves that keep coming back and stopping our popularity before we.
That's it. Before we set it off, but
the Steam Gentlemen, aka three married guys with cats, aka guys with normal penises.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Don't give me that credit.
Hey, I didn't.
Can't play basketball, can't dance. So you guys figure out where that triumph is.
2 out of 3. Come on. All right.
I make my wife laugh.
But please, that's humor goes a long way. Let's face it. That's why we're all here. Yeah, if you do get a chance, follow us on the socials. We are on Facebook at the Steam Gentleman Podcast. We are on Instagram at Do You Even Steam Bro. Been getting a lot of love on Instagram lately. Maybe it's all those people out in Washington State or Indiana coming on in and following us. But as we start to head off into our sunset and adjourn this tribunal of geek, Greg, how you doing today? What you got going on until we next sit down and debate our next subject?
It's going to be a perfectly normal, uneventful week.
All right. So normal
and
penis,
I have zero
uneventful week.
That.
All right. Good times.
Zero problem with that. Uneventful week. After the last couple of weeks, I'm looking forward to that boring shit. And most importantly, rest in peace, Kevin Conroy.
Yes.
The Batman.
who we put some shout outs to him on
Check in on
the website.
Stephanie. Is she good? Is she all right? I'm sure that broke her up a little bit.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I'm sure they were close or knew each other. Or
I mean, I doubt it.
I was asking Josh actually.
We had that cat scratch moment where I'm like, I know you were trying to give me the layup there, and you were trying to give me the alley oop, and I just hit my face.
Because I was like,
happened right there.
Doubt it. So maybe he means another Stephanie.
I don't know.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all
and
right.
anime conventions, Comic Cons.
Bumped
into each other.
Oh yeah. All of a sudden, I went from speaking generic mobster to being
all right. Well,
checking on that thing.
I did, and I'll get to it in my closing remarks here. But let me give you the floor here, Three of Clubs, as I did just manage to give myself a nosebleed off of what was a perfectly easy alley oop. But all right, ain't nothing new there.
Nah, man. To be fair, that wasn't a perfect alley oop. That went off the backboard, and you have a nosebleed because it smacked you in the face where it should have been where your hands were.
I think
that was just a bad pass from me.
You pretty much just described my entire basketball career, right?
I described my, except for the only difference was what I just described was my shot.
All right. Well,
you knew it wasn't going in, so you jumped up for the alley oop. But no, I was trying to shoot that three. All
right. Well, what are you up to, Three of Clubs? All
right. Look, other than Vin Diesel, you. I would just point out that at the root of what we're talking about is power, especially power that becomes unchecked, will lead to fascism one way or the other. In this case, we're using superheroes. I'll give you another personal case real fast that actually ties into something I said earlier in this podcast. It cleans things up a little bit. So I said I played saxophone. Yes, technically for 3 years, I played saxophone and ended with a fascistic moment with my brother because my brother was given powers from my parents. In one fucking lesson, he went from being just a normal person trying to tutor me on being a saxophone player to a goddamn fascist. And that one lesson ended with me rapping my saxophone, money that my parents didn't have, but paid for a saxophone. Not sure still why they did that. I just wanted to play it. Like, yeah, fuck it, let's buy one. And went ahead, bought me a saxophone, and I took that saxophone and wrapped it around my the pole that was in my basement and left it there. And similar to fascism, sometimes when the populace speaks, the rulers listen, because my parents saw that saxophone and didn't say shit. They just let it go. They're just kind of like, you know what? This populace is about 2 steps away from fucking burning the house down while we sleep. So let's just go ahead and let this kid walk it off. He played the recorder. He's good.
All right. Well, glad to hear how your music career went.
I know, right?
It was pretty good in that.
Yeah, that Clinton hit you hard.
And then he hit the Clinton hard around the pole in his basement. I mean, that's how
that bitch like it was a twisty tie.
Damn, son. All right.
Look, I fought fascism. I fought the power. Shout out to Chuck D. Also, shout out to Flavor Flav, who's still probably fighting with Spirit Airlines. Look it up, kids.
Before I head on out and try to take care of my kids here, a definite shout out. Hopefully you're coming back to us from last week's episode. So for Stephanie Nadolny, who did come in and was our voice, who did a fantastic interview with us and did all that. Don't know she knew Kevin Conroy, but it's still all in that in the voice acting industry. Big shout out to you. Hope you're doing well out there and hope you're still listening in on the Steam, gentlemen. A little rest in peace as well, a similar one to the crew of Texas Raiders, which was a B-17 Flying Fortress that I toured as a kid, was flying for a long time in the Ghost Air Force, and then also the P-39 Air Cobra, which was done up in Russian colors, and they unfortunately collided in an air show for Veterans Day this weekend. It was a terrible thing. Damn. Just absolutely tragic. At least 6 people dead and terrible. And, rest in peace to that crew. It was really too bad, just trying to give some living history, and things went absolutely horribly wrong. And I was truly saddened by that. Just like I said, having been on that aircraft, knowing what I know, and having toured it. So, I really, everything there, if you want to look up on Google, and if there are any GoFundMes for the families of the crews, throw a few bucks there, man. People need help out there, man. It's hard out there. But thank you so much for joining us once again, for coming on down into the secret steam tunnels and debating the usual useless crap we debate and put it on there.
I was going to say, after the shout out to Kevin Conroy, rest in peace, I was also going to say, way to go, democracy.
All right there. Yeah, we got it.
Since we're doing the awkward things, I was going to shout out JT. And
you already did it. You only
He's
did one awkward thing.
He's doing the three clubs. Like, come on, man. I can stuff some more awkward into this, man. I can do this. I can do it. I can make
always
that
time for awkward.
I hope the listeners can hear the abuse that I get.
Yeah, we love you. He's all our little brother. We love him. We love him to death. But
That's
all
my
right.
secret power.
So please head on over.
There's a free saxophone out there somewhere.
There is, yes, if you can unwind it. All right. Well, head on over and rate and review us. Have a great time. Join us next week for our next subject matter when we deep dive on into something that you never thought you needed a deep dive on. So in the meantime, this is Josh, the Birdman, saying keep your heat up and keep your head of steam on.
I'll fuck up a poll like a celebrity doctor getting into a government race.